Chapter 1897. Hurt a little from being crushed by money, the Shen family is truly kind and charitable. Admirable, admirable. Everyone marveled and flattered Shen Tianchen. Yi Wanwan, were all wealthy people foolish like this? Shen Tianchen didn't detect any of the underlying ripples just now and giddily boasted to Yi Wanwan, "Goddess, I'll definitely treasure this bracelet for the rest of my life." Yi Wanwan wordlessly rubbed her forehead. Her head pounded right now. She hurt a little from being crushed by money. She didn't cheat on a certain person despite being crushed like this. It was seriously true love, all right? After this auction round, Yi Wanwan simply felt like she was sucked dry, and it was pure willpower that kept her going as she waited for Ji Xiran's ring. Soon, the climax auction items were about to be presented, and everyone's attention slowly drifted back to the auction stage. The first item was the 9-dragon goblet with a starting price of 80 million. An intense fight later, the goblet was won by an antique collector at the high price of 200 million. Everyone couldn't help but muse that only a treasure soon, it was the climax auction items, and everyone's attention slowly gathered back to the auction stage. At this level was worth 200 million. Yet, Bro Flattop's shoddy bracelet was sold for 100 million. This was a marvel never before seen in the history of the auction. Next was the Tang backsword once used by the previous president of the Martial Arts Union. When the red cloth was pulled back and the Tang backsword was revealed, Yi Wanwan's brows twitched for no reason. Due to a long period of disuse, this sword looked a bit old and the blade was blunt. It silently laid there, emitting an ancient and profound sense of history and a striking bloodthirstiness. This backsword was very familiar. While Yi Wanwan was confusedly examining the backsword and pondering over this strange feeling, the bid started in full swing. In the end, Ji Xiran won the bid for the Tang backsword, and the guests around them all politely and amiably toasted him. "Congratulations, congratulations. Congratulations, Emperor Ji." Ji Xiran nodded in thanks and looked at Yi Wanwan. "Xiao Feng, do you like that sword?" When they were outside, Emperor Ji usually called her President Bai, but for some reason he reverted back to Xiao Feng on this occasion. Yi Wanwan returned to the present. "No, it just feels weirdly familiar." Ji Xiran looked at the girl deeply. "Is that so?" The next item to be auctioned is Mr. Ji Xiran's ring. The auctioneer's voice rang out from the stage. Yi Wanwan straightened up instantly, all her attention on the stage. Although the value of Ji Xiran's ring certainly wasn't as much as the 9-dragon goblet, it was possible that its final sold price could be as high as the goblet due to its owner. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. The guests all rubbed their hands in preparation for tonight's battle. Word had it that third Miss Shen would also participate in the bid for this item, but many people still wanted to compete for it since no one present was poor. Third Miss Shen's personal assistant reassured her with a smile. "Don't worry, Third Miss. Emperor Ji's ring will definitely belong to you." Third Miss Shen raised her chin and confidently said, "That goes without saying." Then she fervently turned to Ji Xiran. "Now, the bidding begins. You may all start naming your bids." The auctioneer passionately announced. 10 million. An upper-class woman called out, doubling the price immediately. 15 million. 20 million. Bids surged one after another, and everyone tacitly raised their bids by an entire 5 million. The intense competition over this ring was apparent. Chapter 1890. Yi Wanwan didn't immediately start bidding, mostly out of bashfulness. If it were someone else, she would have definitely been the first to bid and win it at the lowest price possible. However, this was Ji Xiran. Ji Xiran helped her too much, so she had to give him some face and couldn't be too rude. And so, Yi Wanwan watched for an opportunity and waited for everyone to hype it up a bit more. It would be alright as long as she made her bid before third Miss Shen skyrocketed the price. She sharply caught third Miss Shen about to raise her sign. 21 million. Yi Wanwan shouted. At the raising of Yi Wanwan's number 8 placard, the volume drained from the entire venue, a venue that was lively just a second ago. The confident and determined third Miss Shen suddenly lost her ability to raise her hand like her hand got chopped. Her face was ashen as she foolishly stared at Bai Feng. evidently not anticipating Bro Flat Top to also bid for this ring. Damn it. The phone. Why is by phone bidding for Emperor G's ring? She wouldn't care about any guest present who was competing with her since an auction was a fair and open competition won by the highest bidder. However, it just had to be Bro Flat Top. No, she had to get this ring. Third Miss shakily wanted to raise her placard. Third Miss. Don't. Please reconsider. Her assistant pressed down her Miss hand, frightened stiff, and hastily advised, Third Miss. That's Bro Flat Top by phone. Who knows what she might do in her madness? Even Sir isn't willing to provoke someone like her. You mustn't be impulsive, Third Miss. It's just a ring, but this ring was supposed to be mine. Third Miss Shin angrily squeezed out. She had already prepared 200 million for this but was going to lose to 21 million? The assistant looked panicked. I know. But since by phone bid, it means she's telling everyone she wants this ring. If you publicly fight with her over it, you'd be stripping all pretenses with her. It'd be better to offend a gentleman than a scoundrel. Third Miss Shin was still unwilling to accept this, but she met her father's warning glare. As expected, even father wasn't willing to provoke by phone. Third Miss Shin had no choice but to grit her teeth and put her sign down. The auctioneer kept his attention on Third Miss Shin and unsurprisingly watched her lower her sign, her face pale. Third Miss Shin didn't dare to raise her sign. After all, who would suicidally bid against the president of the Fearless Alliance? No one, of course. Yuan looked unsurprised and sat there, unfazed. When she saw Third Miss Shin putting down her placard, she even nodded at Third Miss Shin with a smile. Thanks. Third Miss Shin nearly burst into angry tears when she saw Bai Feng's look. This was a robbery. So unfair. Ji Xiuran retained his perpetual smile when Yuan intercepted the bid halfway through and didn't look too surprised. His gaze landed on the ring on the auction stage and his face turned a bit blank, as though he was absorbed in one of his memories. Meanwhile, Shen Tianchen looked like he'd been wronged. Goddess, you're bidding for Emperor Ji's ring, but you didn't bid for my item. Upon seeing a lack of further bids, the auctioneer started counting down. President Fearless by phone for 21 million, going once. There was complete silence. Seven Star had no choice but to sigh and accept his fate. Some of the guests started whispering in speculation. Damn. What's Bro Flat Top trying to do by bidding for Emperor Ji's ring? Chapter 1899. I heard Bro Flat Top has a keen fondness for beautiful men. She probably took a fancy to Emperor Ji. Damn. That's possible. What a pity. Emperor Ji's in danger from being pestered by a hoodlum. President Fearless by phone for 21 million, going twice. The auctioneer counted down again. President Fearless by phone for 21 million, going thrice. As the auctioneer said that, he lowered the hammer in his hand. Yuan had nothing but excitement on her face. This is great. My honor points are home. However, the second before the auctioneer slammed down the hammer, announcing the winner, a nonchalant voice rang out from the deadly silent crowd. 30 million. Swish, swish, swish. Everyone automatically turned to the speaker to see who in the world had the courage to fight over something with Bro Flat Top. The person who raised the placard was number 9, Lord Azura. Damn. Lord Azura? No wonder. The only one in the entire banquet who would dare to snatch something from the Fearless Alliance was probably Azura. Not to mention the shocked guests, but Yuan's eyes nearly stuck to the man's face with her hard glare. My honor points were about to be mine, but they got cut off. Damn. What are you doing? Yuan questioned aggressively without thinking in her fury. The man's expression was as cool and expressionless as always, as though nothing happened. Bidding, of course. You, bid your ass. He's trying to anger me to death. Yuan gritted her teeth. 31 million. She merely had an estimate of 20 million and didn't have any more money than that, so she could only stubbornly persist. The man next to her promptly said, 40 million. Yuan choked. 41 million. 50 million. Yuan was about to spit out blood. But she couldn't. She couldn't stand this down. Yuan ignored Seven Star's frantic warning and continued, 51 million. Lord Azura's eyes continued to chill as Yi Wanwan persistently tried to outbid him. 100 million. Yi Wanwan. The auctioneer sensed the hostile atmosphere and asked with trepidation, Lord Azura is offering 100 million. Does anyone else have an offer? Yi Wanwan was going to fight him on the spot. She couldn't do it. She had to brawl with this guy right now. Yi Wanwan did exactly as she wanted. She shot up and fiercely glared at the man. You're doing it on purpose, aren't you? Everyone reflexively retreated to the periphery. Shit. Bro Flat Top is about to wreak havoc. What do you mean, President Bai? Lord Azura peered up at her. From her position looking down, the man's eyelashes looked black and long, like the wings of a butterfly, and his eyes were extraordinarily good-looking. Yi Wanwan. What are you looking at now, of all times? Yi Wanwan instantly reverted back to her enraged state. You see, bastard. Today, I'm... Two shadows swiftly dashed forward in the nick of time, and each person held back one side of her body. Sis Fong, calm down, calm down. Big Dipper yelled. Sis Fong, you can't, 7-star advised. Big Dipper was trembling with fear. Sis Fong, our fearless alliance might be fearless of everyone, but this one, we really can't. I'm still a little scared. Can't we stand down a bit? Yiwam, stand down your ass. I'm about to be angered to death by this guy. Chapter 1900. Whoever dares to compete with me. Shiran imperceptibly glanced at Lord Azura. He also couldn't resolve the current situation since he couldn't bid for his own auction item. The auctioneer tentative called, 100 million going once, 100 million going twice, 100 million going thrice. And so, in the end, Emperor Ji's ring was sold to Lord Azura in a jaw-dropping moment. Big Dipper secretly stared at the duo. See, I was saying that Lord Azura and Emperor Ji are a couple. Quiet, 7-star snapped. 7-star quietly reminded Yi Wanwan, Sis Fong, we should leave. Yi Wanwan's objective was the ring. Now that the ring was gone, there was no point in staying. Who said I'm gonna leave? It hasn't ended yet. Yi Wanwan's fury boiled, and she plopped back down on her chair. The auctioneer fearfully announced the auction would continue, and Big Dipper and 7-star had no choice but to continue waiting in the back, seeing as they couldn't persuade Yi Wanwan to leave. From the corners of his eyes, Lord Azura glimpsed at the girl's angrily flushed cheeks and the brilliant flame burning in her eyes, and he became dazed. Then he recalled something and his eyes dimmed again, transforming into an endless abyss. The donor of this auction item was the leader of Azura, Lord Azura. It's a pair of obsidian cufflinks. Please start bidding. The auctioneer wiped his sweat. Why was it another tricky character? Following the auctioneer's words was another fervent uproar, especially from the women. What? Lord Azura actually donated an item too. It's cufflinks. They're also closely worn items. Azura might be a bit wicked, but Lord Azura is seriously too good-looking. That's right, that's right. I'm going to bid on this item to collect it. I also want it. Everyone compete fairly. Enough, stop arguing. It's starting. On the stage, the auctioneer announced the start of the bidding. Everyone held their breaths and waited on their toes, preparing to raise their placards. However, at that moment, a placard was lifted, followed by a languid voice. I offer $1. Rage lingered in Yi Wanwan's eyes, along with a few traces of murderous aura, as she coolly glanced at those enthusiastic socialites. Whoever dares to compete with me, just try. All the women were instantly sent trembling with fright like little chicks. Why is it her again? $1. Bai Feng's gone mad, right? What's the difference between this and direct robbery? This is obviously blatant robbery, alright? Yi Wanwan snorted. I'm robbing openly. So what? Bite me, was written all over her face. After Yi Wanwan's yell of $1, no one else dared to bid. Even if this was the lowest price in history and even if a beggar wouldn't pick it up after it dropped on the ground, no one dared to counterbid. The auctioneer had never encountered this kind of situation in his career. He felt like this was the biggest challenge of his career. Hey, time's up. Shouldn't you start counting down? Yi Wanwan threateningly reminded him, lightly tapping her armrest. The auctioneer shuddered and hastily said, Yes. President of the Fearless Alliance by phone, $1 going once, $1 going twice, $1 going thrice. Towards the end, the auctioneer didn't dare to meet Lord Azura's eyes. Going thrice sold. The item he donated was bought for $1. This was simply public humiliation, a face-slapping and provocation. Azura and the Fearless Alliance were probably going to start a war, right? The color drained from Seven Star's face. He prepared himself for the worst already but didn't expect reality to be more excruciating. Chapter 1901 Having a Lover's Spat. This vixen has gone too far. This was the nth time Jiang Yen had uttered this same line out of fury. Ah, Little Red, calm down. Lin Kei clapped the aggravated Jiang Yan's shoulder. They're just having a lover's spat. Why do you keep blindly getting mixed up into it? However, this time, the spat had gotten a little serious. Lin Kei had never seen Ninth Brother angered to this extent. Yi Wanwan was truly too capable. This year's charity auction experienced all sorts of twists and turns and surprises, providing a rather thrilling and frightening night. From the arrival of President Fearless and Lord Azura to Emperor Ji and Lord Azura simultaneously bidding for Bro Flattop's bracelet for no reason to Bro Flattop and Lord Azura clashing and fighting over Emperor Ji's ring to Bro Flattop snatching Lord Azura's cufflinks with $1. Every event sent the onlookers' jaws dropping. Their hypotheses that formed seconds ago were constantly turned over in the next second inexplicably. After Bai Feng bought Lord Azura's valuable obsidian cufflinks at the price of $1, everyone subconsciously turned to Lord Azura. Their bums hovered above their chairs, wanting nothing more than to escape for their lives immediately. However, Lord Azura was still Lord Azura. Despite being provoked publicly in this fashion, he suppressed his rage, but his complexion, it was terrifying. Shit. I'm scared to death. The smell of gunpowder tonight is too frightening. A perfectly fine charity banquet was ruined by Bro Flattop. She really came here to crash the party, didn't she? Isn't the Fearless Alliance too gutsy? First, they sabotaged the price of Emperor Ji's ring and stole from Third Miss Shin. Now, they stole Lord Azura's cufflinks with that kind of price and offended all the big shots here. Lord Azura's murderous face looks especially torrential. I think the Fearless Alliance will definitely faceplant this time. They should have thought about who they were provoking. The atmosphere in the venue was taut as a string, and everyone held their breaths and prepared to escape for their lives. The only relaxed person was probably Yi Wanwan. After stealing the cufflinks, she cheerfully glanced at the man to her left. Although she really didn't want to admit it, she might have snatched the cufflinks to vent her anger, but also because she disliked those women's covetous glances and couldn't tolerate this pair of cufflinks ending up in another woman's hands. After the auction ended, the employees started delivering everyone's auctioned items. Yi Wanwan brazenly asked Big Dipper, "Do you have a coin on you?" Big Dipper dug everywhere and really pulled out a $1 coin. Yi Wanwan took it and casually flicked it with a ding at the employee. Then she took the obsidian cufflinks packaged in a black velvet box from the employee's hands. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. Big Dipper quietly whispered next to Yi Wanwan's ear, "Sis Feng, I think you should just give the cufflinks to Emperor Ji, and let Emperor Ji and Lord Azura bond together." Veins twitched on Yi Wanwan's forehead, and she mercilessly kicked Big Dipper. "Bond them together your ass. Why else would you need these cufflinks? You should do them a favor instead. Look at how Lord Azura is staring at the cufflinks in your hands, about to be angered to death." Big Dipper feebly protested. "Can't I throw them around like toys?" Yi Wanwan glared at him. The second Yi Wanwan spoke, the temperature in the hall seemed to have dropped a few more degrees. At that moment, an employee cautiously walked over, holding the ring that Lord Azura bought for 100 million. "Esteemed Lord Azura, here's your ring." Yi Wanwan fumed. "Damn. It's clearly mine, okay?" Chapter 1902 His taste is too frightening. The man minutely nodded and ordered Jiang Yen to swipe his card and pay for it on the spot. Then his slender fingers accepted the box. Yi Wanwan intently stared at the ring, her eyes nearly sending the ring's box ablaze. So infuriating. My honor points up. Ji Shiran, do you have any other ring? Yi Wanwan asked with one last ray of hope without any care for how awful a certain person's face would be after she asked this question. Ji Shiran shook his head. I'm not accustomed to wearing rings, so this was the only one. Then, damn, it appeared the person who issued the mission only wanted this ring. If she tried to slide by with another ring, it wouldn't work. At that moment, Third Miss Shen marched over and stopped in front of Lord Azura. Third Miss Shen first shyly glanced at Ji Shiran before turning to fervently stare at the ring in Lord Azura's hands. However, she cowered a little due to the other man's overly intimidating aura before scrounging up her courage and asking, "Esteemed Lord Azura, could you sell this ring to me?" As Third Miss Shen said that, she mused to herself, "Wow. Lord Azura looks even prettier up close. Who would have expected Lord Azura, who was rumored to look like Rakshasa, would turn out to be so handsome? Too bad he was so frightening and made everyone too scared to approach him." In contrast, Ji Shiran was much gentler. "I can give double the price." Third Miss Shen confidently offered. Yi Wanwan nearly choked on her own spit from shock. Damn. Double. That was 200 million. She started with 200 freaking million. Rich people like the Shen family were truly too much. After Third Miss Shen said that, she glanced at Yi Wanwan gloatingly. She didn't believe there was anything in this world that couldn't be resolved by money. There was an 80% chance Lord Azura fought for this ring due to a conflict with Bro Flattop and wanted to antagonize her. The other reason was to use this 100 million of charity money to befriend the Shen family. Since it was like that, if she offered 200 million to buy this ring from Lord Azura, he would definitely agree to sell it to her as long as he was right in the head. The assistant next to Third Miss Shen also thought this method was feasible, so she didn't stop her miss. "How about it, Lord Azura?" Third Miss Shen asked self-assuredly. The man aloofly glanced at Third Miss Shen from the corner of his eyes and indifferently said, "No." Third Miss Shen, Yi Wanwan, Big Dipper, Shen Tianqian suddenly interrupted this peculiar silence and belligerently shouted, "I offer 250 million. Sell it to me, Lord Azura." Then Shen Tianqian turned fawningly to Yi Wanwan, his eyes brightly shining. "Don't worry, goddess. I will definitely help you get anything you want." Third Miss Shen stomped her foot in anger. "Is there something wrong with your head, brother?" She already had a hard time understanding why Shen Tianqian spent 100 million to buy Bro Flattop's lousy bracelet for no good reason tonight, and now he was calling Bro Flattop goddess? Her brother didn't take a liking to Bro Flattop, right? Too frightening. His taste was too intense. Shen Tianqian ignored his sister and continued to pester Lord Azura. "No, 300 million. I'll pay 300 million. That should be enough, right?" He was offering more money than was sensible already. There was probably no one who could reject it. Yi Wanwan, at least, felt like she would have sold it if it were her. Chapter 1903 Lord Azura's love for Emperor Ji was probably true love. Lord Azura glanced at Shen Tianqian, and some extremely icy emotions leaked out from his gloomy eyes, sending an involuntary shiver down Shen Tianqian's spine. Damn. Why did Lord Azura look at me so frighteningly? I'm an extravagant spender. Who on this planet doesn't face me with a grin? Shen Tianqian gulped. How about you name any price you want? Lord Azura handed the ring to Jiang Yen for safekeeping and promptly turned, leaving behind the deep and hoarse words, "Not for sale," in his wake. Shen Tianqian, Third Miss Shen, Yi Wanwan, 300 million. It was 300 million. Yi Wanwan suddenly started to deeply suspect that Lord Azura's love for Emperor Ji was probably true love. Watching Lord Azura leave with her 10,000 honor points in tow, Yi Wanwan was about to explode from her fury. Why did she bother worrying about those cufflinks ending up in another woman's hands? Yi Wanwan intently stared at the man leaving with her honor points for a moment before turning to Third Miss Shen and asking, "Third Miss, do you want these cufflinks?" If you want them, I'll sell them to you cheaper and give you a discount at 100 million. The girl's enraged voice floated from behind him. When Lord Azura heard her wanting to sell his cufflinks, his steps seemed to pause for a moment and his back also stiffened, but he quickly recovered and disappeared into the dark night. Third Miss Shun started for a moment before her face became livid with anger. You bought it for $1 yet you're selling it for 100 million. Why don't you come and rob me instead? Yi Wanwan pursed her lips. Who cares how much I bought it for? These cufflinks are worth this price. After her fury passed, Third Miss Shun mulled it over and felt Bai Feng was right. It was worth 100 million. She wouldn't be losing anything really? Moreover, Lord Azura was so good-looking. Third Miss Shun was tempted. Third Miss Shun coughed lightly and said, 100 million, is it? Sure. I'll buy the cufflinks. Send money to her. Third Miss Shun turned to her assistant and instructed her before extending her hand toward Yi Wanwan. Give me the cufflinks. Big Dipper was flabbergasted as he witnessed this, overwhelmed with admiration. You're too awesome, Sis Feng. $1 in exchange for 100 million. This was simply an extremely profitable exchange. Hurry and give it to her. Big Dipper urged. Yi Wanwan met Third Miss Shun's anticipatory face, and her nonchalant expression chilled. You want to buy these cufflinks with a mere 100 million? Aren't you dreaming too much? Bai Feng, what do you mean? Nothing. I'm not selling. Bai Feng. It was clearly you who said you were selling. Are you playing me? Third Miss Shun nearly spat out blood from anger. Yi Wanwan answered, yes, so what? Third Miss Shun, Big Dipper was stunned. Sis Feng, are you mad? Why aren't you selling? That's 100 million. 100 million. What about 100 million? Is it a lot? Yi Wanwan rolled her eyes at him. It freaking really was a lot. But since she rejected it already, she couldn't regret it. What a good-for-nothing she was. She was tormented to this extent, and she still couldn't part with some lousy cufflinks of his. Let's go home. Yi Wanwan finally left after sending chickens and dogs flying everywhere at the charity banquet and offending everyone. 7-Star followed her, worried. He wasn't worried about other people since they wouldn't have the nerve to attack the Fearless Alliance about this tiny matter, but Lord Azura. What Sis Feng did tonight was truly overboard. Azura and the Fearless Alliance had a hostile relationship to begin with, so this undoubtedly would make things worse. Chapter 1904. You seem to like it. Ji Xiuran stepped out of the banquet hall after her, and Skeleton held a long rectangular-shaped box next to him. Xiao Feng. Yi Wanwan reflexively paused and turned around at her name. Emperor Ji. Emperor Ji glanced at Skeleton and the man nodded before carrying the box to Yi Wanwan. This is? Yi Wanwan didn't understand. This Tang backsword is for you, Ji Xiuran replied. Yi Wanwan was astonished. For me? You seem to like it, Ji Xiuran nonchalantly answered, like it was a matter-of-course thing. Big Dipper and 7-Star looked at each other, surprise on their faces. What was going on with Emperor Ji? Why did his attitude feel so odd? And this wasn't the first time they had this feeling. Originally, the Fearless Alliance and Emperor Ji should have been enemies after a conflict between the two, but ever since Sis Feng returned, they became closer and closer instead of intensifying their hostility. However, no matter how 7-Star thought about it, he couldn't understand why Ji Xiuran would befriend a notorious and ill-reputed organization like the Fearless Alliance. Yi Wanwan sweated profusely instantly. I can't. This is too valuable. As one of tonight's climax auction items, this backsword was sold for an astronomical price of several hundred million. Big Dipper was stupefied. Damn. Isn't this the Tang backsword once used by the previous president of the Martial Arts Union? The dream collector item of every martial artist and every fanboy in the independent state. Sis Feng, what's wrong with you? Shouldn't you shamelessly hurry and accept this? Why are you acting all gentlemanly and pious in front of Emperor Ji? Gentlemanly your ass. Shut up. Yi Wanwan kicked him before turning back to Ji Xiuran and saying, Ahem, thank you, but this backsword is truly too valuable. I can't accept it. All right, She also thought she would inexplicably become very gentlemanly every time she was with Ji Shuran. Ji Shuran didn't mind and chuckled lightly. Then take it to play with for a few days and return it to me later. Then Yi Wanwan was somewhat tempted as she stared at the backsword. Ever since she saw this backsword at the banquet hall, her mind had been ill at ease, so this would be the perfect time to borrow it to study it. Skeleton had already stepped forward and handed the box to Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan carefully accepted it. Then thanks. I'll definitely protect it well. No problem. Ji Shuran smiled before recalling something, and his smile dimmed. Apologies. I couldn't bid for my own donated item. That ring. The flames in Yi Wanwan's heart combusted once more. She forcibly repressed it and squeezed out between gritted teeth. No worries, I have a solution. Then Yi Wanwan was probably afraid of Ji Shuran misunderstanding and hastily coughed and explained, please don't misunderstand. I didn't mean anything else by it. I actually wanted this ring because I wanted to exchange it for Scarlet Flames Academies. Didn't mean anything else. Ji Shuran interrupted, his light-colored eyes meaningfully landing on her face. Yi Wanwan felt a bit awkward. As by Feng, she had a complicated secret relationship with Ji Shuran, so Ji Shuran probably wouldn't believe she wanted it purely for honor points. Before Yi Wanwan could gather a good response, Big Dipper interjected, no other meaning? Sis Feng, who the heck are you trying to fool? Yi Wanwan's veins popped on her forehead. Big Dipper, I feel like you've been feeling a bit itchy recently? Big Dipper instantly escaped 10 feet away. No. Sis Feng, you absolutely had no other meaning. You did it for love and justice. Yi Wanwan. Chapter 1905. What happened to not being bewitched by looks? On the trip back in the car, 7 Star seemed to have finally understood something. Sis Feng, what did you mean just now? Did you bid for Emperor Ji's ring to exchange it for Scarlet Flames Academy's honor points? Yi Wanwan's face was dark as the ocean, and the fire in her eyes burst to the heavens. She looked like a merchant who came home with a prosperous load but encountered bandits during her journey and was robbed of everything she had. She enunciated each word carefully, obtaining Emperor Ji's personal ring, S-rank mission, 10,000 honor points. Yes, and then it all flew out of her hands. Realization dawned on Big Dipper. So you were aiming for honor points, Sis Feng? What else? Do I look a lecherous and tyrannical monarch who ignores her duties, pranks her officials, and gets bewitched by looks all day long? Yi Wanwan snapped brusquely. Out of an overwhelming desire to survive, Big Dipper didn't act suicidally for once and said, I did think that originally, but after today, I will reflect on my previous misunderstandings of you, Sis Feng. Being lecherous is merely your facade and disguise. In reality, you're the most logical, wisest, most thoughtful of the circumstances, and most strategic brilliant ruler. Yi Wanwan jovially accepted Big Dipper's accolade of praises. Much better. The car drove onward smoothly and happened to pass by a roadside stall that had a lot of handicrafts hooked by red strings displayed. Yi Wanwan called out to the driving 7 Star, Wait, 7 Star, stop the car. Go out and help me buy a red string from the owner. Sis Feng, do you want to buy a pendant? 7 Star inquired. No, I just want a piece of string. All right. 7 Star didn't know what Yi Wanwan wanted the red string for but left the car to buy it anyway. 7 Star politely communicated with the owner, a middle-aged woman, and quickly returned to the car. How did it go? Did you buy it? Yi Wanwan asked. 7 Star handed the red string to Yi Wanwan. The owner gave it for free. Yi Wanwan happily patted 7 Star's cheeks. Nice. Good job. 7 Star pursed his lips with a slightly abashed expression. Big Dipper instantly grumbled. It was just a piece of string. If I went, I would have conned a ball out of her. Yi Wanwan rolled her eyes. However, Sis Feng, why did you tell old 7 to buy this lousy, worthless piece of string? Big Dipper asked curiously. 7 Star also looked puzzled. Yi Wanwan didn't reply and calmly pulled out the black velvet box from her pocket. Big Dipper's eyes brightened the second he saw this box. Lord Azura's cufflinks. That was 100 million. 100 million. Sis Feng, did you finally decide to sell it? I knew it. You must have not sold it to Third Miss Shin just now because you wanted to sell it to someone else for a higher price. For these cufflinks, I don't think it'd be a problem if you raised the price some more and sold it for 200 million. You're truly too brilliant, Sis Feng. In the midst of Big Dipper's onslaught, Yi Wanwan pulled out the obsidian cufflinks and strung them together with the red string before wearing it around her neck. What do you think? Look good? Yi Wanwan's fair and delicate fingers gently ran over the cufflinks as she lazily asked with a raise of her brows. Big Dipper, 200 million. How could it not be good-looking? What happened to not being lecherous and tyrannical? What happened to not being a terrible ruler? What happened to not being bewitched by looks? Thank goodness she didn't win Ji Xiran's ring. If she got it, would she wear Emperor Ji's ring on her hand and Lord Azura's cufflinks around her neck? Chapter 1906 All robbed? Help me send a message to Lord Azura, Yi Wanwan ordered Big Dipper after exiting the car. Seven Star's eyebrows twitched. The president just simmered down. What did she want to do now? Big Dipper blinked. Do you want to write a love letter to Lord Azura again? What freaking love letter? Tell him I want that ring and he can bring up any terms he wants, Yi Wanwan replied. Big Dipper mumbled, Ahem, you should just give up, Sis Feng. Lord Azura didn't sell it to eldest young Master Shin even at 300 million. Yi Wanwan glared at him. Just do as I say. Okay, Big Dipper felt like he discovered the truth. The honor points were merely a cover, and she actually wanted Emperor Ji's personal ring for herself. After returning to the Fearless Alliance, Yi Wanwan also had Big Dipper go to the archives and search for some old records of the independent state. Ever since learning about the Rose of Death's actual existence, she was intrigued. To Yi Wanwan, the Fearless Alliance was considered a T1 tier faction and was rather top-notch already. It might not match up to Emperor Ji's faction or Lord Azura's Azura, but it shouldn't be too inferior. Aside from immensely powerful factions like them, the ancient clans of the independent state, and the supposed protectors of justice in the independent state, the Martial Arts Union, Yi Wanwan found it hard to believe that any of those factions, including the patrician Nye, Ling, and Ji families, couldn't defeat the Rose of Death. Of course, a family built from money like the Shun family didn't count as a combative power. However, the Rose of Death was once the nightmare of the entire independent state and remained a taboo after it was destroyed. Yi Wanwan truly couldn't understand this. Just how strong was the Rose of Death that they could make the entire independent state act so wary of it? Sis Feng, are you serious? Big Dipper dumbfoundedly looked at her. Yi Wanwan glanced at him. Nonsense. I'm just having you get a few books. What could I be joking about? Big Dipper scratched the back of his head. But, Sis Feng, we all don't read books. Although our Fearless Alliance has a gigantic library, doesn't it just store all the jewelry and treasures we stole? Why would we have something as cheap as books? Big Dipper, it doesn't work that way. Books are steps for human advancement, and ancient texts especially are grand sources of knowledge and experience left behind from our forebears, so how could you call books cheap? A good book can't be traded for 1,000 pieces of gold. Yi Wanwan lectured him like an elder. Big Dipper looked at her in astonishment and looked like he wanted to say something but could only nod. Okay, all right, take me to the library to see the treasures we stole then. Yi Wanwan turned to him seriously. Big Dipper. Soon, Yi Wanwan followed Big Dipper to the entrance of the Fearless Alliance's library, which was guarded by some Fearless Alliance elites. President. The Fearless Alliance elites were surprised by the arrival of Yi Wanwan. Their president had never visited the library. What are you standing around for? Hurry and open the door, Yi Wanwan impatiently ordered while rubbing her hands. A member quickly opened the doors to the library. Gold lights sparkled in the enormous library, and the jewels haphazardly thrown on the floor glowed lustrously. When Yi Wanwan and Big Dipper entered the library, they both gasped in shock. It's all mine, Yi Wanwan exclaimed. My dear mother, so blinding, Big Dipper mumbled. Aside from a small amount of gold and diamonds, there was a large amount of rare precious stones as well as classical calligraphy and paintings, every rare and priceless treasure imaginable. Stars glittered from Yi Wanwan's eyes. This was too freaking extravagant. We stole all of this? Yi Wanwan questioned Big Dipper. Big Dipper frantically nodded like a chick pecking grain. That's right, Sis Fong. We stole most of this. After each robbery, the Fearless Alliance sells the majority of the loot. For the items that you like, Sis Fong, you keep it and toss it in the library. Chapter 1907. Actually so rich? Yi Wanwan had nothing but satisfaction on her face. What kind of wretched and heartless things had the Fearless Alliance done? Robbing all these treasures and jewels. All right, you can leave. Yi Wanwan flicked her hand at Big Dipper. Big Dipper left the library begrudgingly. As Yi Wanwan surveyed the library piled high with jewels and treasures, she realized she was actually so rich for the first time. Yi Wanwan immediately started organizing the jewels by herself. Since there were so many treasures, it wouldn't hurt to sell some so that she could pay those high-ranked mercenaries from Scarlet Flame's Academy to keep doing missions for her. Whether she could recover her memory or not would rely on these treasures. However, after rummaging for a long time, she discovered that she really liked every item and didn't want to sell a single one. Moreover, these were considered stolen goods, so she probably couldn't sell them. Yi Wanwan's gaze suddenly landed on a ring silently sitting on top of a shelf she finished organizing. The material of the ring wasn't super valuable, nor did Yi Wanwan recognize the workmanship and raw material, but she found this ring familiar to the eyes, as though she'd seen it somewhere before. She swiftly walked toward the shelf and grabbed the ring on her tiptoes. The ring was an antique style with a muted color, and a stalk of some unknown plant was carved on the back of the ring. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows and found this ring more familiar the more she inspected it. A while later, Yi Wanwan's expression shifted. Wasn't this ring the ring Si Yihin handed to her not too long ago? An expert even tried to rob it from her in China. So how did it escape to the library? Did it gain a conscience and grow a pair of legs? Yi Wanwan subconsciously lifted her right arm and examined her finger. The ring given by Si Yihin was innocently sitting on her finger and hadn't gone missing. What's going on? Yi Wanwan frowned with confusion written all over her face. Why were there two identical rings? Big Dipper, Yi Wanwan called. Coming. You were looking for me, Sis Fong? The library's doors were opened instantly, and Big Dipper swiftly darted inside with anticipation on his face. He seemed to be hoping for Yi Wanwan to casually reward him with a few valuable items. I have a question for you. Who did we steal the items on this shelf from? Yi Wanwan asked him. Big Dipper strode forward and surveyed it for a moment before shaking his head. I don't know. The things here should have probably been from the heist you and First Elder pulled a few years ago. Sis Fong, don't you know how to talk? Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. What did he freaking mean by heist they pulled? What they did was called work. Call First Elder here, Yi Wanwan ordered. Okay. Big Dipper immediately disappeared without a trace. About 15 minutes later, Big Dipper finally led First Elder to the library. Sis Fong, I found First Elder for you, Big Dipper said with a grin. First Elder looked at her in confusion. Why did you call me here so urgently, President? Is there a problem? First Elder, I can't seem to remember where we obtained this shelf of items from? Yi Wanwan inquired. Chapter 1908. We didn't plunder this. Two identical rings truly sent her mind spinning. Yi Wanwan was certain that these two rings had some definite connection. If she could discover the origin of one of them, perhaps she could figure out the history and purpose of the ring she was wearing. Si Yihin previously said that she personally handed this ring to Si Yihin, and it was her most prized accessory. Combined with the attempted robbery from the expert in China, Yi Wanwan was very curious about the purpose of this ring and its history. This side, is it? I did do this one with the president. First Elder walked forward and examined the jewels, antiques, jades, and treasures sitting on the cupboard and sunk into contemplation. Do you still remember where we got it? Yi Wanwan asked. The president and I teamed up only 2 or 3 times, so I still have some recollection. First Elder stared at the cupboard pensively. Maybe we robbed the Shen family. The Shen family? Yi Wanwan was surprised. First Elder promptly shook his head. Wait, no, we robbed the Shen family of gold bricks that time, Yi Wanwan. Oh, I remember. We didn't plunder this, First Elder said. If we didn't plunder this, where did it come from? Yi Wanwan was baffled. Have you forgotten, President? We stole this, First Elder smiled at her. Thinking back on it, it's been a few years. Stole it? Damn. Why didn't I know we did such a wretched and inhumane thing? When has the Fearless Alliance been so shameless to actually commit petty theft? Big Dipper asked in utter shock. Their Fearless Alliance might not be some moral entity, but they always scorned petty theft. Petty theft? First Elder shot Big Dipper a look. You might have some misunderstanding regarding the word petty. Yi Wanwan reflexively looked at the entire cabinet and the glittering and dazzling jewels and treasures and calligraphy and paintings resting on it. All of that really couldn't be considered petty. Big Dipper also sunk into contemplation, staring at the cabinet before a realization dawned on him. Infamous bandits. Yi Wanwan ignored him and turned to First Elder. Do you still remember where we stole it from, First Elder? I do. First Elder nodded. We've only committed one theft, and it was from the Nye family. The Nye family? Yi Wanwan was bewildered. Why did they steal something from the Nye family? Wait, her focus seemed to be incorrect. It should be, why did the Nye family have an identical ring? Sis Fong, why did the ring turn into two rings? Big Dipper curiously stared at the ring on Yi Wanwan's finger and the ring she was holding. First Elder, look at this ring. Yi Wanwan handed the ring she picked from the cabinet shelf to First Elder. First Elder accepted the ring and carefully examined it. A moment later, he concluded, this ring is indeed very similar to the ring on your hand, President, but it's not identical. Oh? Yi Wanwan was startled. First, the material of this ring is completely different and isn't as valuable as the one you're wearing, President. Second, the workmanship. Although this ring's workmanship is very particular too, it's at least 2 levels lower than the President's ring. Third, the markings behind the ring has several extra strokes. It's hard to distinguish unless you inspect it carefully. Chapter 1909. Too shameless. After saying that, First Elder handed the ring back to Yi Wanwan. Material and workmanship were all Greek to Yi Wanwan, so she couldn't tell the difference. But after First Elder pointed it out, Yi Wanwan carefully examined the markings behind the ring and discovered that there were several unnoticeable extra strokes, as First Elder mentioned. If she placed the two rings side by side and compared them, some minute differences could be seen. I'm correct, they should be child and mother rings, First Elder said. Alphabet ring? Letters like A, B, C, D? Big Dipper was dumbfounded. First Elder didn't look at him and continued to explain to Yi Wanwan. Child and mother rings are a pair of rings with the mother ring as the lead and the child ring as the subsidiary. For example, if the most important token in the Fearless Alliance was a ring, then your ring would be the mother ring, President, representing the highest power. MD, as the First Elder, might be granted a sun ring if the President Fearless recognized me. This would mean that I'd have the highest status below the President in the entire Fearless Alliance. That's how it'd work. First Elder, aren't you too shameless? This is blatantly hinting. Wait, no, it's an outright suggestion. Power. Child and mother ring. Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. If it was truly as First Elder said, then the amount of information behind these two rings would be too immense. Child and mother ring. Just what did they represent? President, I'm not saying this ring represents power or anything. I was just raising an example, First Elder clarified. Are you sure we stole this from the Nye family? Yi Wanwan was doubtful. Why would they steal? No, why would the Nye family have such a ring? I'm sure. First Elder nodded. Because we've only ever stolen from the Nye family, and everything in this cabinet was stolen from the Nye family. Alright. That's all then. Yi Wanwan waved her hand and left the library. Without a moment's pause, Yi Wanwan called Nameless Nye and asked him to meet her at a nearby coffee house. About 2 hours later, Nameless Nye fierily entered the coffee house, and Yi Wanwan was sitting in her usual spot. Huh, good sister. Are you planning to buy the antidote? Brother told you that your life is most important. Don't worry, brother won't ask a lot from you since we're all family. But your life is so valuable, sister. If I accept too little, it'd be equivalent to humiliating you and slapping your face. So just give me 100 or 200 million. Nameless Nye fired away hopefully as soon as he sat down across from Yi Wanwan. Why don't you freaking commit robbery? 100 or 200 million. I'd rather the love goo act up and kill me. It's not related to the love goo and its antidote. Yi Wanwan stared Nameless Nye down. Is there something you're hiding from me? Nameless Nye was startled. How did you know? I knew it, Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes. Although I asked for some betrothal gifts from eldest young Master Shen, it's for your own good, sister. Damn, disliking even eldest young Master Shen. Do you want to take off into space? Nameless Nye was agitated. You freaking accepted betrothal gifts behind my back? Fine, I'll give you some. I'll take 70 and you can take 30, don't waste my time. I'm not talking about that. Let me ask you, do you recognize this ring or not? Yi Wanwan opened her right palm with irritation. 1. Child is a homophone of letter in Chinese. Chapter 1910. What's special about it? It isn't about the betrothal gifts, huh? You should have told me. You scared me to death. Nameless Nye awkwardly laughed and quickly inspected the ring on Yi Wanwan's hand. Isn't this ring the one you showed me last time? Yi Wanwan nodded. That's right, it's the ring I showed you last time. Don't tell me you called me here just for this? Nameless Nye was baffled. My every minute is worth hundreds of dollars. Time is so valuable. Quiet. Yi Wanwan shot him a look. Do you recognize it or not? Isn't it just a ring? What use could it have? I really don't know. Nameless Nye sighed exasperatedly. You really don't know? Yi Wanwan suspiciously evaluated Nameless Nye. The child ring in the Fearless Alliance's library was a stolen good from the Nye family, so logically speaking, these two rings had an enormous connection as they were child and mother rings. Hence, how could Nameless Nye not recognize it as the eldest young master of the Nye family? Yi Wanwan said, Don't lie to me. I'm asking you seriously. Say, Sister Famous, with our friendship, what's there to lie to you about regarding a lousy ring? I either recognize it or don't. I'm also telling you very seriously that I really don't recognize it, Nameless Nye replied, vexed. Yi Wanwan carefully studied Nameless Nye. He didn't seem to be lying and really didn't know the history behind this ring. Sister, why do you keep asking me about this ring? Could there be something special about this ring? Nameless Nye was curious. Yi Wanwan shook her head. How did she know what purpose this ring had? If she knew, she wouldn't need to ask him about it. Then, do you have any recollection of this ring? Yi Wanwan took out the child ring and handed it to Nameless Nye. Isn't this ring the same as your ring? Nameless Nye was confused. Take a closer look. Nameless Nye observed it some more. A moment later, he said, It really is different. Both the material and workmanship is inferior to your ring. Nameless Nye's conclusion was identical to First Elder's, as Yi Wanwan expected. This should be a pair of child and mother rings. Do you really not recognize them? Yi Wanwan asked. The child ring was stolen from the Nye family, so if this ring was relatively important, Nameless Nye shouldn't be clueless about it. Child and mother ring? Nameless Nye looked at her with bewilderment. That's right. The one on my hand is the mother ring, and yours is the child ring, Yi Wanwan explained. Sister, are you trying to bully your brother for being uncultured? Nameless Nye tossed the ring onto the table. Child and mother rings your ass. They aren't child and mother rings? Yi Wanwan was surprised. But First Elder clearly said these were a pair of child and mother rings. Of course they aren't. They're obviously a pair of couples' rings. Nameless Nye snorted. I previously opened a stall in China and sold accessories, so I'm familiar with this. Carefully thinking about it, when she first met Nameless Nye, he was indeed a street vendor. Couple rings. Yi Wanwan became more confused. She understood the meaning behind child and mother rings thanks to first elder's explanation, but what did couples rings mean? Yi Wanwan chuckled lightly and asked nameless Nya, what are couples rings? Chapter 1911. Lover's ring. Nameless Nya gently placed his coffee cup on the table and looked at Yi Wanwan in surprise. Damn, sister, no way, right? You don't even know about couples rings? Couples rings, as the name indicates, what else could that mean? They're lovers' rings. Lovers' rings? Yi Wanwan was confused. The ring on her hand and the ring stolen from the Nye family were a pair of freaking lovers' rings? What outrageous joke was this? Yi Wanwan could understand it if they were child and mother rings, but what the heck was up with lovers' rings? If they were really lovers' rings, then who did this ring belong to? Si Yihin didn't understand the ring's meaning, so could it be that the pair was her old self and Ji Shiran? That was too melodramatic, right? Si Yihin carefully safeguarded her lover ring for so many years and viewed it as a treasure. If Si Yihin learned the truth, Yi Wanwan couldn't help but shiver. The nickname Vinegar King of Asia wasn't an exaggeration. If Si Yihin learned the truth, this ring's fate would be perilous. Our Fearless Alliance's First Elder said these were child and mother rings. First Elder is wise and is considered the most knowledgeable individual in the Fearless Alliance. Yi Wanwan murmured. If she had to pick between First Elder and nameless Nya, she'd definitely choose to believe First Elder. At least First Elder was more reliable overall. Does your First Elder have a wife? Nameless Nya asked her. Yi Wanwan shook her head reflexively. She'd never heard anything about First Elder having a wife. See, that's it. The First Elder of your Fearless Alliance is famous in the independent state for being childless and wifeless. I heard he hasn't even dated once in his life. Someone like him is knowledgeable and wise, but what the hell does he know about couples rings and matters between lovers? Nameless Nya prattled on haughtily. Yi Wanwan pensively turned to Nameless Nya and examined him for almost a minute before asking, do you have a girlfriend? Nameless Nya, ahem. Something like a girlfriend is superficial and isn't something you carry with you at birth or death. So no. Nameless Nya shook his head self-righteously. However, I might not have one now, but I used to have one, Nameless Nya added. Oh, which girl was blind enough? A thirst for gossip was ignited in Yi Wanwan instantly. Nameless Nya suddenly sunk into silence without any sign, and an expression never before seen surfaced in his eyes, an unspeakable desolation and indescribable emotion. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. There seemed to be a story. All that is history. Who wasn't young and stupid once? Who hasn't dabbled in romance once? Forget about that. I'll clearly tell you that these absolutely aren't some child and mother rings though. If they are, I'll kill myself in front of you. They're couples rings, Nameless Nya adamantly swore. Then Nameless Nya had Yi Wanwan take off her ring and put the two rings side by side for comparison. First, we start with the material. If they're child and mother rings, the rings should have been produced by the same person, and their workmanship shouldn't be so different in quality. Second, look at the design on the back. Your ring is missing a few strokes and this ring has a few strokes. Overall, it looks like a tree sapling. The sapling is the man, and the plant is the woman. Finally, the size of your ring is suitable for a woman to wear while this ring is obviously a men's size, alright? Since when did a pair of child and mother rings have a gender distinction? Dummy, Nameless Nya explained. Chapter 1912. Really true siblings. After half a day, Yi Wanwan still didn't really understand what Nameless Nya was saying but felt like he made a lot of sense. Anyway, did you forget what I sold to you the first time we met? Pride and confidence resurged on Nameless Nya's face. How could Yi Wanwan forget? The item Nameless Nya sold to her back then allowed her to shine brilliantly at the Yi family birthday banquet. I personally crafted all of those creations and specialized in the arts, so I'm too knowledgeable in this area. Don't worry, these are a pair of couples rings for sure. Nameless Nya continued. Alright. Yi Wanwan was at a loss for words. Nameless Nya was right though. He was a lot more knowledgeable than First Elder in this specialty since he could craft his own masterpieces with a freaking lost technique. She couldn't refute his expertise in this area. However, the male lover's ring also has extraordinary workmanship, strictly speaking. It's just a lot dimmer in comparison to your ring. And the workmanship on this sapling is very particular. I'll offer you $100. Sister, sell it to me. Nameless Nya laughed mischievously. Yi Wanwan glanced at him. It's not for sale. Look at your stinginess. I look down on you. Nameless Nya rolled his eyes at her. Who gave him the courage to call me stingy? Although I'm really stingy, I'm slightly better than him, alright? We really are true siblings. After dismissing Nameless Nya, Yi Wanwan contacted Ji Shiran. She was engaged with Ji Shiran back then, so this ring absolutely belonged to Ji Shiran if the rings were truly couples' rings. Soon, Ji Shiran arrived on time. An inscrutable smile was on the man's face as he naturally sat down next to Yi Wanwan. Did you have something urgent to discuss? Ji Shiran looked at her with his perpetual warm and gentle smile. Is this yours? Yi Wanwan took out the men's ring and placed it in front of Ji Shiran. Ji Shiran scanned the ring. How could it be mine? I told you at the auction that I've only worn that one ring. Wasn't it bought by Lord Azura? It's not yours? Yi Wanwan became more surprised. What the heck was this situation? The female ring belonged to her, and she was absolutely certain the male ring didn't belong to Si Yihan since he was clueless about the ring's history and purpose. Now, even Ji Shiran denied it. Could it be she freaking wore couples rings with someone else? At that moment, Yi Wanwan developed the best melodrama of the year in her mind but rejected it all a few breaths later. It wasn't realistic. If worryless Nya really wore a couple's ring with another man, the news would have tom through the entire independent state. Moreover, Nya Linglong and the fake worryless Nya would have definitely sown discord between Ji Shiran and her since this was a significant humiliation to Emperor Ji. They weren't child and mother rings, and she couldn't find the owner of the men's couple's ring. Do you recognize these two rings? Yi Wanwan handed both rings to Ji Shiran. I haven't. But based on the design and size, they should be matching couple's rings, right? What, do you want to give it to me? Softness flitted through Ji Shiran's eyes as he joked. Yi Wanwan, it's a misunderstanding, an enormous misunderstanding. Chapter 1913. Can't you be more tactful? This isn't mine, Yi Wanwan replied with an embarrassed chuckle. I'm also joking, Ji Shiran calmly said. Yi Wanwan was still doubtful about Nameless Nya's words earlier but completely believed it now. After all, even Ji Shiran said they were matching couples' rings, so it shouldn't be wrong. Yi Wanwan felt her mind swirling. The female ring belonged to her, but the history of the male ring was a mystery. Xiaofeng, is there another meaning behind these rings? Ji Shiran probed. Yi Wanwan shook her head. I'm also unsure. Yi Wanwan wasn't on guard against Ji Shiran at all. There wasn't a necessity. If Ji Shiran wanted to harm her, she'd be 6 feet under already and wouldn't have survived to this day. Xiaofeng, the ring you're wearing should have some years on it. The workmanship isn't modern. The other ring has a newer material, so they were probably made in different time periods, Ji Shiran said softly. Are you saying these rings aren't couples' rings? Yi Wanwan asked inquisitively. They are couples' rings. Ji Shiran replied. It's just a bit strange that the two rings weren't made by the same person and perhaps not at the same time. I also don't understand it. It's a rare situation. Yi Wanwan wanted to sob. She originally thought the truth would be revealed but didn't expect the mystery to become more enigmatic. After having dinner with Ji Shiran, Yi Wanwan returned to the Fearless Alliance. She tossed the matter with the rings to the back of her mind and started scratching and petting Great White and Virus. She wanted to ask the headmaster of Scarlet Flames Academy to help her conduct another deep hypnosis session first. Maybe she could recall something then. The next morning, Yi Wanwan had Big Dipper drive her to Scarlet Flames Academy. The minute Yi Wanwan stepped into Scarlet Flames Academy's mission issuance area, her path was blocked by several high-ranking mercenaries. Boss, you're finally back. One of the S-rank mercenaries said, Our luck was quite decent and we acquired a total of 50,000 mercenary points. Yi Wanwan became spirited instantly. After verifying the mercenary points, Yi Wanwan called Second Elder without further ado and had him wire some money to her and paid the S-rank mercenaries. Should we continue accepting missions, boss? The mercenaries looked at the amount in their account with great satisfaction, their smiles turning more eager. Ha, boss, you're seriously rich. We were just planning earlier to kill you if you couldn't pay up, a tall and bulky S-rank mercenary said with a foolish smile. Yi Wanwan, can't you be more freaking tactful? Nonsense. When did we ever plan to kill the boss? Don't listen to his nonsense, boss. Yi Wanwan nodded with a, don't worry, I understand, smile on her face. Continue to accept missions, Yi Wanwan said. We were just lucky this time and did the missions quickly. This is a long-term job without any time limit, right, boss? An S-rank mercenary asked. No time limit, Yi Wanwan answered. After receiving Yi Wanwan's promise, the S-rank mercenaries used Yi Wanwan's name to accept a large number of missions again. As for Yi Wanwan, she planned to use these 50,000 honor points to ask the headmaster to conduct a second hypnosis session on her. She had to figure out the history of the rings. Chapter 1914 considered outwitting Yi Wanwan didn't leave the mission issuance area in a hurry. Before her trip to China, she accepted a mission to eradicate defected mercenaries worth 5,000 points, so she had to submit this mission first. When the mercenaries saw Yi Wanwan in the mission issuance area, quiet discussions snaked through the crowd. To the mercenary students, Yi Wanwan had clearly become the strangest rookie mercenary of the year at Scarlet Flames Academy. Damn, that's Yi Wanwan, right? I heard she's super fierce. She won first place in this year's competition and also broke one of Nielinglong's records and won dozens of rounds. She seriously injured Meng Ku and killed Meng Tian. Those two were S-rank mercenaries. I heard Yi Wanwan knows how to use Drunken Fist. She's super fearsome and doesn't recognize anyone when she's drunk. Several senior brothers also said that Yi Wanwan learned her Drunken Fist from wild monkeys and gorillas. Yi Wanwan, I learned it from wild monkeys and gorillas. The power of rumors truly couldn't be underestimated. Soon, Yi Wanwan arrived at the mission submission area and lined up. There were several people ahead of her in line. Senior sister. Hurry. You go first. That's right. You should submit your mission first, senior sister. Several B-rank mercenaries jumped in fright when they saw Yi Wanwan and hastily moved to the side. Although cutting in line was uncivilized behavior, there was nothing Yi Wanwan could do when other people forcefully yielded their spots to her. Hence, Yi Wanwan had no choice but to become first in line. At the front, a Scarlet Flames instructor looked at Yi Wanwan and commented with a light chuckle, Yi Wanwan, Elder Gong's disciple. You're young and promising with boundless prospects ahead of you, thank you. I would like to submit my mission, Yi Wanwan said. Yi Wanwan then handed the photos of the defected mercenaries to the instructor. Oh? This was the mission to eradicate defected mercenaries? Did you finish it? The instructor asked curiously. Yes, Yi Wanwan nodded. Were there chopped off heads? The instructor looked around Yi Wanwan and discovered she came back empty-handed. Their chopped off heads? Yi Wanwan was surprised. There's something wrong with them, right? They freaking want chopped off heads? What absurd joke is this? It was those defected mercenaries who violated China's laws, but if she were to bring their chopped off heads back, then it would be her who violated the law, all right? Whether she could even return or not would be a mystery. No, but I have a video as evidence. Yi Wanwan took out her phone and played the video. The contents of the video was those defected mercenaries being arrested by the Chinese police. The instructor stared at the video in disbelief. How was this a mission submission? The mission I accepted called for eradication. This should be considered eradication too, since it was me who called the police. Yi Wanwan smiled indifferently. You called the police? The Scarlet Flames instructor was stunned. He'd never seen someone complete a mission like this. Moreover, how could she call the police? That was too disgraceful to Scarlet Flame's Academy, all right. That's right. Yi Wanwan nodded and cheerfully said, the mission didn't specify how I should finish the mission, so that should be considered outwitting them, right? The Scarlet Flame's instructor wanted to refute but couldn't think of any comeback after half a day. This mission really didn't say anything about prohibiting outwitting someone, but something like calling the police. Not a single Scarlet Flame student had ever called the police to finish a mission in the history of Scarlet Flame's Academy. If news of this got out, in the end, the instructor was left speechless and could only stamp the seal over Yi Wanwan's mission submission document, signifying the completion of the mission. Chapter 1915. Isn't she afraid of death? After obtaining 5,000 mercenary honor points, Yi Wanwan strode away, happily satisfied, and returned to the mission issuance area. Moments later, in front of everyone's astonished gazes, Yi Wanwan ripped off 2 S-rank missions and 1 S+ rank mission in succession. S-rank mission: obtain a personal ring belonging to Emperor Ji and obtain 10,000 mercenary honor points. S-rank mission: obtain a strand of hair from Lord Azura and obtain 10,000 mercenary honor points. S+ rank mission: escort a token and obtain 7,000 mercenary honor points. Damn, has Yi Wanwan gone mad? 2 S rank and 1 S+ rank, and they're all freaking related to Lord Azura and Emperor Ji. What in the world is she thinking? I can't understand why she'd pick those 2 S rank missions at all, alright? And damn, look at that S+ rank mission. Escorting a token, and you also have a high risk of being abducted by Azura and initiating a battle. Isn't she serving her life on a silver platter? However, I previously heard that Yi Wanwan accepted 2 missions before and defeated 7-Star and Big Dipper of the Fearless Alliance. Even if she's strong and knows some drunken fist and trained with monkeys and gorillas, this is Lord Azura. Perhaps Lord Azura will be there himself. This is nothing like defeating Big Dipper and 7-Star one by one. When senior sister Nye Linglong set her record back then, she merely single-handedly finished 2 S-rank missions and 1 A+ rank mission within a month, alright? Does Yi Wanwan want to create another record? Isn't she afraid of death? Yi Wanwan completely ignored everyone's prattling and turned to leave after accepting those 3 missions. If she finished these 3 missions, it would be 40,000 more honor points in her account. Rounding the points up, it would be enough for another hypnosis session with the headmaster. She suddenly felt like her memory would soon be recovered and these honor points weren't so hard to earn. After leaving the mission issuance area, Yi Wanwan first visited Elder Gong and reported her safety to him before swiftly walking toward the headmaster's office. When she arrived at the headmaster's office, she knocked and entered after obtaining permission. Headmaster. Yi Wanwan happily looked at the elderly man reading documents while wearing a pair of glasses. Did you come here to pay back some honor points? The Scarlet Flame's headmaster looked up, surveying her. Yi Wanwan started. She freaking forgot about this. She still owed the headmaster 25,000 honor points. That's right. Yi Wanwan nodded. She pulled out her mission completion documents and paid 25,000 points back to the headmaster. Good. You kept your word. The headmaster nodded approvingly at her. Headmaster, I went to China earlier and heard you like to drink, so I brought back some stuff from China for you. Yi Wanwan smiled and placed several bottles of liquor on his desk. The Scarlet Flame's headmaster said, Thanks, you're quite considerate. I also visited China once when I was young. The liquor in China is rather nice indeed. Seeing that the headmaster accepted it, Yi Wanwan grinned and said, Headmaster, I still have 30,000 honor points. Can you please conduct hypnosis on me? Come back when you've gathered 50,000 points. Headmaster, haven't you heard of a saying? Return what you borrowed on time, and you may borrow again next time. I already paid you back 25,000. I'll just owe you 20,000 again, Yi Wanwan cajoled. Chapter 1916. I'm most particular about trustworthiness. The Scarlet Flame's instructor furrowed his brows slightly. How can you act like this? You just paid it back, but you immediately want to go back into debt. You shouldn't have paid it back in the first place. Headmaster, look, you've already accepted my liquor. It was quite hard for me to bring it back from China. Yi Wanwan sighed in despair. You? The headmaster looked at Yi Wanwan, bewildered. No wonder she gave him liquor as a present. She was waiting for him here. One might become tied to others because of the things they gave you. If he didn't allow Yi Wanwan to owe him today and word got out, people would think he enjoyed taking advantage of his students. Lie down over there. You have to pay back the 20,000 you owe within a month, the headmaster said grumpily. Of course. Don't worry, I care about trustworthiness the most. Yi Wanwan's smile grew bigger after the headmaster agreed, and she immediately went to lie down on the chair in the office. After the headmaster finished reading over his paperwork, he stood up and walked toward Yi Wanwan. The hypnosis technique played out exactly like last time. After answering a few questions from the headmaster, Yi Wanwan was led by the rhythm of the hypnosis and felt her eyes growing heavy, soon falling into a deep sleep. Drifting between consciousness and unconsciousness, her spirit seemed to separate from her body. In some corner of the independent state, a girl wearing cyan-colored sparring clothes lay on the roadside, blood drenching her body. Gray clouds densely shrouded the sky and heavy rain kept pouring from above. The girl was soaked through and through already, and her blood flowed into the wet dirt, becoming one with the earth. This shocking and ghastly sight was truly unbearable. The girl didn't seem to resist at all against her strong opponent. It wasn't clear whether it was due to her heavy injuries or an utter unwillingness to resist. You truly deserve to die, a somewhat familiar voice spoke. Yi Wanwan looked ahead, but everyone's faces looked like they had a sheet of mosaic laid over them, and she couldn't see anything clearly. Worryless Nye. I want you to die in my hands. Even if you die 10,000 times, you won't make up for the sin you committed. Your death isn't enough. The man's blurry figure stopped next to the girl, and he instantly clutched her by her throat. However, after a long time passed, the man still couldn't kill the girl. Why? Tell me, why did this happen? The man fumed with rage, and he hysterically howled, "It was you! It was you who betrayed us!" Rain fell on the girl's face, washing away the scarlet stain from the corner of her mouth. The girl's lips curled up, and she closed her eyes, unwilling to utter a sound. Tell me, why did you do it? The man furiously roared. However, the girl said nothing. Great. You won't talk, huh? That's unimportant. I'll kill you myself, and then accompany you to death. That's all I can do. The man smiled faintly, the reluctance in his eyes transforming into vindictiveness and resolution. However, more time passed and the man still couldn't do it. A few breaths later, the man gritted his teeth and tossed the girl onto the ground before ordering an elderly man in the back. Elder Jean, you, come here and kill her. An elderly man stepped out of the dense crowd with a dagger in hand, and the man returned to the car. The elderly man directed the dagger toward the girl's chest. Before the dagger could land, the scene shifted, and a black figure arrived next to the girl as fast as lightning. His icy eyes attempted to freeze the world, and his figure melted into the night. Chapter 1917. Segment of memories. The man moved quicker than the eye could see, and the elderly man was kicked back a dozen meters back and crashed to the ground heavily. The man's gaze landed on the girl, and an indescribable heartache surfaced in his placid and bone-chilling eyes. Does it hurt, Xiaofeng? The man swiftly knelt down and gently pulled the girl into his arms. Why, are you here? The girl opened her eyes and weakly looked at this man who resembled a god descending to the mortal world. I was worried about you, the man answered. Is it just you? She stared at him. Just me is enough, the man expressionlessly said. Leave. Forget about me. It's unrelated to you. It was unclear whether it was tears or raindrops on her face. Don't talk. The man carried the girl, allowing her to lean against his chest. The man's bone-chilling gaze set on the dense mass of people ahead. His voice contained the final calm before an apocalypse, and around him was his extremely repressed aura, ready to explode at a moment's notice. The martial arts union, is it? From now on, The independent states. Martial arts union must perish. The man's icy gaze sent chills down people's spines. However, this relatively complete memory fragment ended there, and the scenery changed. In China at the Sea residence, the man accompanied the girl every second and every minute, not leaving her side for a single moment. The girl frequently sat outside without a word and rejected all food and water. The man had to resort to forceful methods to make the girl eat her food and preserve her life. Just what happened in the independent state? He asked her. However, the girl seemed to intentionally avoid this question. "See, can you do me a favor?" the girl said to the man one day. "Help me erase all of my memories," the girl requested. "No way." The man was resolute and decisive. "Is that so? Even if I want to die?" Despair permeated the girl's face. The man sank into silence. The moment before the girl entered the surgery suite, she took out a ring and handed it to the man. "See, Ian, this is my most treasured ring. Can you help me safeguard it?" The man accepted the ring and studied it for a moment. "What is it?" The girl smiled faintly and shook her head. "You don't need to know. Keep it and hide it." Things passed in the blink of an eye, but it also felt like dozens of decades later when Yu Wanwan in the headmaster's office suddenly opened her eyes and reflexively shot up, fiercely coughing like she'd choked on water. "Deep breaths," the Scarlet Flame's headmaster instructed from the side. Yu Wanwan gradually recovered after doing as the headmaster said. "A memory impairment like yours should be recovered after 2 more sessions. Go back and rest." The headmaster returned to his desk and started reading his documents again. Yi Wanwan left the office like a zombie, her head buzzing. What she recalled in her hypnotized state this time weren't memory fragments anymore. They were 2 fairly complete segments of memory, and she watched these segments like a movie as an observer. The martial arts union, the shrouded man, Elder Jean who wanted to kill the girl with a dagger, and also Si Yihan. Everything seemed to connect into a shocking truth. Yi Wanwan was certain that girl was her old self, the second miss of the Nye family, worryless Nye. Chapter 1918. Yi Wanwan's thoughts felt rather chaotic. The information she obtained from her hypnosis session was truly too immense. On top of the 2 complete memory segments, there were also some fragmented memories. For example, some scenes like worryless Nye adopting Nye Linglong, some scenes in vile environments, and some scenes where she encountered wolves, etc. A moment later, Yi Wanwan arrived at the cafe eldest young master Shin opened at Scarlet Flame's academy. The servers at the cafe were evidently a bit fearful when they saw Yi Wanwan. A server hastily served her a cup of coffee before staying far, far away. Yi Wanwan leaned against the back of the sofa and combed through her thoughts. Through these newly recovered memories, Si Yihan finally had nowhere else to hide. He adamantly denied his identity, but the lie collapsed on itself now. In the beginning, Yi Wanwan's objective for coming to the independent state wasn't only to find Si Yihan but also to address the resentment festering inside her. She couldn't understand why Si Yihan did what he did. Why did he erase memories that belonged to her and turn her into a complete stranger, Yi Wanwan? Moreover, she once wondered if the woman Si Yihan loved was the real but deceased Yi Wanwan and if she was merely Yi Wanwan's replacement. However, from this hypnosis session, it was actually her own request to have her memory erased and turn into someone else. This was unbelievable and unimaginable to her. Just what did she experience when she was still worryless Nye? After Si Yihan brought worryless Nye to China, worryless Nye was akin to a zombie and even harmed herself and used her life to threaten Si Yihan and force him into erasing her memories. If she knew how freaking troublesome it would be to regain her memory, she wouldn't have screwed herself over back then. What surprised Yi Wanwan more was that rather than recovering her memories during her hypnosis sessions with the headmaster, it was more like her memories had turned into a film and replayed in the depths of her mind. This feeling was very odd. It didn't feel like she experienced these things herself, but she could feel the same things. Through this last hypnosis session, Yi Wanwan finally recalled Elder Jean from the martial arts union as well. No wonder she felt uncomfortable when she first met him back then. She almost died in his hands. Also, Who was the man whose face she couldn't see clearly? Why did he want her dead? From her analysis of the obtained information, that man didn't truly want her to die, but Yi Wanwan still couldn't forget the hatred in his eyes. It was a terrifying, torrential hatred. Moreover, the man kept saying that she betrayed him. Could it be? Yi Wanwan's mind instantly filled out a convoluted melodrama, which she quickly realized was impossible after more thought. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. One thing that greatly surprised Yi Wanwan was that Si Yihin called the wounded worryless Nye, Xiaofeng, when he picked her up. No matter how stupid Yi Wanwan was, she realized the identity of the Xiaofeng Si Yihin referred to. Xiaofeng by Feng? Yi Wanwan frowned. Could it be that worryless Nye was by Feng, and by Feng was worryless Nye? These two people were the same person to begin with. After thinking about it carefully, she knew Ji Shiran had an engagement with worryless Nye of the Nye family, but now, it was her who had an engagement with Ji Shiran. Chapter 1919. She wants to take off into space. Could it be that worryless Nye created the Fearless Alliance and took on the alias by Feng, but Si Yihin doesn't know this? Yi Wanwan murmured. If that was it, everything would make sense and things would be explained perfectly. The Fearless Alliance mistook her for their president because she had another identity on top of being worryless Nye. She was the president of the Fearless Alliance by Feng. The bro flat top she impersonated for so long was actually herself. Of course, she still had to ask Ji Shiran about the truth of the matter. Soon, Yi Wanwan departed from Scarlet Flame's academy. Through this hypnosis session, she didn't figure out the history and meaning of the ring, but she had a lead at least. Elder Jean of the Martial Arts Union, Yi Wanwan returned to the Fearless Alliance sometime in the afternoon. As soon as she reached the headquarters, she summoned 7-Star, Big Dipper, First Elder, and Third Elder. Damn, Sis Feng, why are you back so soon? Didn't you just return to Scarlet Flame's academy this morning? Big Dipper asked curiously. Not only that, but the recently returned Yi Wanwan also called them to the conference room. Did she have to be so solemn? Act more serious. Yi Wanwan shot Big Dipper a look. Okay. Big Dipper nodded and stopped talking. Sis Feng, do you have any orders? 7-Star inquired. Yi Wanwan nodded and said, I'm planning to abduct someone. Her listeners weren't too surprised. Wasn't it normal for the president of the Fearless Alliance to abduct someone? That's it, Sis Feng? Why did you need to stir up such a racket just to abduct a person? Who do you want to abduct, Sis Feng? Asking me to do it should be enough. Big Dipper snickered. Elder Jean, Yi Wanwan answered candidly. Elder Jean? The four people looked at each other, bewildered. They couldn't immediately connect this Elder Jean to Elder Jean of the Martial Arts Union. Which Elder Jean? Big Dipper reflexively asked. The one from Martial Arts Union. Didn't he come to the Fearless Alliance to negotiate last time? That Elder Jean, Yi Wanwan clarified. Big Dipper and Third Elder looked like they'd seen a ghost. The Martial Arts Union. Did their president Fearless want to take off into outer space? They could pardon stealing treasures from the Nye family and plundering money from the Shun family since that was work. Now though, she wanted to abduct an elder of the Martial Arts Union. Are you sure you aren't joking, Sis Feng? Big Dipper was incredulous. What was the Martial Arts Union? Even Emperor Ji and Lord Azura couldn't compare to them, let alone the Fearless Alliance. Antagonizing the Martial Arts Union was equivalent to a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It was suicidal. President, please reconsider. The Martial Arts Union isn't easy prey, Third Elder hastily interjected. It wasn't that their Fearless Alliance was afraid of trouble, but it didn't make sense for them to send sheep into the mountain despite knowing there were tigers on the mountain. I've decided already, Yi Wanwan said with a smile. Big Dipper dazedly gave Yi Wanwan a thumbs up. You've gone adrift, Sis Feng. Your ego has really exploded. The entire independent state knew that the Fearless Alliance was fearless and didn't have a single coward. However, being unafraid of death was one thing. They'd never courted death suicidally. Chapter 1920. I'm scared attacking an elder of the martial arts union was the same as declaring war on the martial arts union. Even if Lord Azura and Emperor Ji's factions teamed up together, they might not be enough to defeat the martial arts union, let alone small fry like them. I don't think you should rashly make a decision on this matter, President. We truly don't have enough strength to provoke the martial arts union. The silent first elder finally spoke up. Who told you we were openly abducting Elder Jean? Yi Wanwan glanced at them. Of course Yi Wanwan knew that blatantly causing trouble like that was a purely suicidal move and a one-way ticket to the afterlife. However, who said they had to blatantly abduct Elder Jean? Didn't they know to act backhandedly, clobber him with a club, and throw a burlap bag over him? Weren't these basic abilities of the Fearless Alliance? You mean we're operating in secret, Sis Feng? 7-Star was pensive. That's right. Yi Wanwan nodded. We're merely targeting Elder Jean this time, not the entire martial arts union. Find an opportunity. We'll take advantage of the night, secretly throw a burlap bag over Elder Jean, and knock him unconscious with a club. I can imagine it, Big Dipper remarked, rubbing his chin. If you're sure, President, then it'd be best if only the 5 of us knew about this. Otherwise, the consequences upon exposure would be inconceivable, First Elder vigilantly warned. What's there to be afraid of? It's just the mere martial arts union. So what if word gets out? Sis Feng isn't scared, so I'm also not scared, Big Dipper mocked. Yi Wanwan turned to Big Dipper. I am scared though. Big Dipper. Some amount of time passed before Yi Wanwan instructed. This matter is greatly important, so only success is permitted and failure is prohibited. First Elder, look into Elder Jin's lifestyle and habits, how many people he brings when he goes out, and what places he likes to visit. Understood. First Elder promptly left. As long as they successfully abducted Elder Jean, everything would be fine. Yi Wanwan believed that the entire truth would soon be revealed, and she might not need to wait for 2 more hypnosis sessions. First Elder and Third Elder didn't ask about Yi Wanwan's objective. They simply needed to follow whatever their president decided. If there was a need to tell them, the president would tell them. If the president didn't say anything, there wasn't a need for them to delve into the bottom of things. First Elder didn't return to the Fearless Alliance until the evening. He made a beeline for Yi Wanwan's office and entered without prior warning. President, First Elder greeted. How did it go? Yi Wanwan asked him. I've obtained the information. First Elder smiled faintly. Elder Jean of the Martial Arts Union will drive to the Eastern District to deliver supplies and goods to a branch of the Martial Arts Union. He'll have around 2 people with him. Good job. Yi Wanwan grinned. This would be a perfect opportunity. Soon, Third Elder and the others also came to the office and learned of the scouted information from First Elder. Third Elder provided his analysis. President, the martial arts union typically isn't too cautious since they've reigned supreme over the independent state these past few years, so they shouldn't have many underlying defenses during a supply run. No faction in the independent state would dare to seek trouble from the martial arts union, so they're numb and careless. This is a good opportunity to attack. Chapter 1921. An astronomical misunderstanding. After all, Third Elder couldn't allow First Elder to take all the merit. Hold on, just us few isn't enough of a guarantee. How about we bring some more people? As they say, there's strength in numbers. It'd go faster too. Big Dipper suggested. Why do we need so many people? We'd alert the enemies more easily. 7-Star turned to Big Dipper. Big Dipper shook his head. As they say, the bigger group dares to bully anyone in the smaller group, but the smaller group cowers and trembles when they meet the bigger group. Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. It sounded really reasonable. After all, they didn't know how many people Elder Jean had with him. What if he brought a lot of people? They had to seize Elder Jean in one go. If the conflict dragged out for too long, the martial arts union would definitely get wind of it, and the consequences would be inconceivable. First Elder, Third Elder, bring some absolutely trusted experts from the Alliance, and let's depart. Yi Wanwan finally decided after a long contemplation. Okay. First elder and third elder nodded simultaneously. Soon about 7 to 8 people, second elder, fourth elder, fifth elder, and some hall masters, arrived at the office. The Fearless Alliance had a total of 7 elders, 14 hall masters, and 72 helms. However, tonight's operation was too important, and there was no need to bring more people than necessary to crush the other side. Too many people would alert the enemies more easily. After obtaining the details from First Elder, the other elders and hall masters were first surprised before they started to look forward to it. The Fearless Alliance had laid low for too long. They had kept a low profile ever since the president returned to the Fearless Alliance and hadn't conducted any large operations. Haha, it's definitely your style, President. I was wondering why you weren't doing any jobs this whole time. It turns out you were planning this large job, Fourth Elder joked. Yiwanwan, what a giant misunderstanding. I originally wanted to let that punk, Fu Mingxi, follow along and learn something, but forget it since we're dealing with the martial arts union after all. Taking supplies, TSK, it should be quite a large sum. Greed surfaced in Second Elder's eyes. Yiwanwan didn't know what to say about that. Second Elder was the owner of Stars Corporation, so he was considered loaded, right? Why was he so greedy still? Moreover, this time, she really only planned to abduct Elder Jean and didn't plan to steal the martial arts union supplies? Was there some misunderstanding? The martial arts union supplies, huh? What an endeavor, President. The hall masters were brimming with excitement as they gave Yiwanwan a thumbs up. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Org Yiwan, forget it, let them keep the misunderstanding. Everyone, you must remember that you absolutely can't reveal tonight's events to other people. Only the people present can know about it, understand? Yiwanwan ordered. Hearing this, the elders and hall masters in this room were incredibly moved. This showed the president's trust in them. The president only called them there, which meant the president trusted them the most in the entire Fearless Alliance. Don't worry, President, we absolutely won't leak a single word. The elders and hall masters all answered in unison. Good. Yiwanwan nodded. After First Elder told them about the time and route, they boarded the van that First Elder prepared and disappeared into the night using the darkness as their cover. About half an hour later, they stopped at a secluded spot, a spot that people had to pass to head to the Eastern District. Chapter 1922. Since when was this new gig added? The sky was dark without a ray of moonlight, and night settled around them completely. Everyone sat waiting inside the minivan. The place ahead of them was a bridge. If someone wanted to head to the Eastern District, this bridge was a necessary crossing point unless they swam there. Damn, Sis Feng, we've been waiting for so long without a single car in sight. Don't Tiyumi one, he martial arts taking the water route this time. If they are, does that mean we're waiting for nothing? Big Dipper asked, looking at Yiwanwan. Everyone's gaze landed on Big Dipper as they rebuked in unison, "Shut your unlucky mouth." Big Dipper, after another half hour passed, 7 Stars suddenly opened the door to the minivan. Sis Feng, there's some activity, 7 Star said. Yiwanwan and the others were energized instantly and got out of the minivan. As 7 Star spoke, 3 big trucks were slowly driving toward the bridge in one line. Damn, those are the Martial Arts Union's transport trucks. Big Dipper exclaimed excitedly after narrowing his eyes and seeing the license plates. Let's move, Yiwanwan decisively ordered when she saw the transport trucks approaching. An elderly man in ragged clothes promptly walked forward. Shit, who's this? Big Dipper jolted in fright at this beggar-like old man. First Elder ignored Big Dipper and walked onto the bridge. A moment later, the 3 trucks slowly reached the entrance of the bridge. When the driver saw the scraggly-looking First Elder, he frowned and rapidly pressed his horn while switching between low and high beam on his headlights. However, First Elder appeared to have been frightened and instantly fell onto the ground, lying on his back. Damn. Far away, the secretly observing Big Dipper was astonished. Hustling car drivers. Since when was this new gig added to our Fearless Alliance? What should we do, Elder Jean? the truck driver asked the elderly man sitting behind him. Elder Jean looked ahead pensively. He managed to ascend to the position of an elder in the martial arts union, so how could he lack astuteness? Crush him, Elder Jean ordered. The driver was startled for a second before answering. Understood. The truck at the front slowly drove onto the bridge and completely ignored First Elder, who was pretending to be unconscious on the ground, like he was air. Damn, Sis Fong, I think we should cancel this gig of scamming drivers. It's too dangerous. Big Dipper hastily said to Yi Wanwan before dashing to the minivan and stomping on the gas without another word. He sent the minivan spinning to the front of the truck and blocked their path. If First Elder died from a car accident instead, how grievous would that be? Big Dipper didn't dare to linger inside the minivan though and quickly opened the door and fled outside. He was blocking a truck. Who would dare to stay? Attack! Yi Wanwan had no choice but to resort to forceful means since the first plan didn't succeed. Third Elder and Fifth Elder charged ahead immediately. Second Elder, Fourth Elder, and the other hall masters refused to be left behind too. Each person ran faster than the other person and raced toward the truck. The truck at the front was blocked by the minivan that suddenly drove in front of them, so the two trucks behind it naturally had to stop as well. Third Elder stopped by the driver's side of the third truck by himself and swung his fist, shattering the window. He swiftly opened the driver's door and dragged the driver out. Chapter 1923. A surprising discovery. The other elders and hall masters all followed Third Elder's example and used the quickest speed and shortest amount of time to shatter the windows of the two trucks in front and assaulted the drivers. They were driving giant trucks. It wasn't a joke. If they allowed the driver to regain their wits, it wouldn't be so easy to stop a giant truck. Humph, foolhardy punks. Elder Jean snorted and darted out of the first truck. Aside from Elder Jean, there were also two middle-aged men from the martial arts union. You dare to stop a transport truck from the martial arts union? One of the middle-aged men shouted coldly as he surveyed the situation. Who are you? Announce your names, Elder Jean questioned calmly. Following Elder Jin's words, Yi Wanwan languidly walked out from the darkness. When Elder Jean saw Yi Wanwan, his eyes narrowed. Elder Jean, long time no see. Yi Wanwan smiled faintly at the elderly man. Heh, Elder Jean looked at Yi Wanwan. I was wondering who it was. So it's President Bai Feng, from the Fearless Alliance. This makes more sense since the Fearless Alliance robs people for a living. However, stealing from the martial arts union, aren't you a bit ignorant about the situation, President Bai? Fucking bullshit. Big Dipper pointed at Elder Jean and snorted. Aside from robbing, we also steal and scam. We have a bunch of gigs. You know nothing. Yi Wanwan, would you die if you didn't talk? Don't waste your words with this old thing. Attack and capture him as fast as possible. Third Elder ordered at once. The longer they dragged this out, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. The president said earlier that they had to apprehend Elder Jean instantly. Before Elder Jean could react, the 5 elders and the hall masters all surrounded Elder Jean and the 2 middle-aged men from the martial arts union. Elder Jean might have been formidable martially, but he was no match against a dozen or so people. Within 15 minutes, Elder Jean and the 2 men were defeated and bound tightly before being thrown inside the minivan. After successfully accomplishing their goal, Yi Wanwan, First Elder, 7-star, and 2 hall masters departed first while the rest remained to clean up the scene. Not a single tidbit of evidence could be left behind. After Yi Wanwan and the others drove away in the minivan, Third Elder, Big Dipper, Fourth Elder, Fifth Elder, and the other hall masters rapidly cleaned up the scene. Big Dipper climbed into the big truck, and his eyes sparkled brightly when he saw the supplies brimming in the back. Damn, come here quickly and look. Third Elder was the quickest to arrive and couldn't help but make a noise when he saw the truckload of supplies. There wasn't only a large quantity of gold, but there were also a lot of rare medicine, something that couldn't be bought with money alone. Third Elder, there's also a person in the truck, a hall master suddenly shouted. Oh! Third Elder and Big Dipper's attention were caught instantly. When they stopped in front of the third truck, third elder was astonished. There was a woman in her 40s who had her arms tied behind her back and a rope looped around her neck. Big Dipper was dumbfounded. "Why are you here, Mom?" "What?" Third elder looked more surprised. "This is your mother, Big Dipper?" "Yeah, it's my mom." Big Dipper nodded frantically. "Then why aren't you untying your mother already?" Second elder asked. Chapter 1924. He must taken a fancy to my mom. Right. Big Dipper hastily walked forward and freed the woman. "Mom, what happened to you? Weren't you recovering in the hospital after being hit by a car? What's going on?" Big Dipper looked flabbergasted. His mom was just a normal person, so why did the martial arts union abduct his mom? Don't tell me. That old fart Jean took a fancy to you? Big Dipper's face was brimming with worry. The woman looked a bit weak right now. She glanced at Big Dipper but didn't say anything. "Enough talking. Everything can wait until we get back." Third elder interjected. "See if there's any tracking or location device on the car. If there are, dismantle them all and hide the trucks." Second elder commanded. Soon, the group hid the 3 trucks in an extremely covert spot before returning to the Fearless Alliance. Inside Yi Wanwan's office at the Fearless Alliance headquarters, Yi Wanwan had just taken a sip of water when Big Dipper helped his mother inside the office. Yi Wanwan was confused. "What is going on?" "This is my mom, Sis Fong," Big Dipper explained quickly. Yi Wanwan was even more bewildered after Big Dipper's introduction. Why did Big Dipper bring his mom here? "Hello, Auntie," Yi Wanwan greeted the woman with a smile. The woman nodded slightly in response. "Sis Fong, you have to give justice to my mom. She was abducted by that old fart Jean and hidden in the truck. That damn old geezer must have taken a fancy to my mom." Big Dipper was enraged. That bastardly martial arts union poses as righteous people, but they actually conduct this kind of shady shit. I'll fuck them and 18 generations of their ancestors. "Watch your mouth." The woman shot Big Dipper a look. "Yi Wanwan, this is rather weird. Mom, this is my boss, the president of the Fearless Alliance." Big Dipper introduced her to his mom. "N." The woman nodded at Yi Wanwan. "Thank you for taking care of Big Dipper all this time." "As I should," Yi Wanwan replied. Then Yi Wanwan asked curiously, "Oh right, Auntie, why did the martial arts union capture you?" She could understand it if the martial arts union captured Big Dipper, but they captured Big Dipper's mother. Maybe there was some misunderstanding? "I'm not sure myself," the woman answered weakly. A second later, from the corner of her eyes, the woman caught sight of the ring on Yi Wanwan's finger, and an indescribable shock surfaced in her eyes. "Big Dipper, I have something to do, so take good care of Auntie." Yi Wanwan marched out of the office after leaving those instructions behind. When Yi Wanwan and her group came back, they imprisoned Elder Jean in one of the Fearless Alliance's secret bases instead of their headquarters. When Yi Wanwan arrived at the secret base with a few people in tow, she was met with the sight of Elder Jean and the 2 middle-aged men bound in iron chains. "Go outside," Yi Wanwan ordered the hall masters. Yes, the hall masters immediately exited, leaving Yi Wanwan behind on her own. After they left, Yi Wanwan turned to the madly struggling Elder Jean with a grin. "Elder Jean, I think it's time for a nice conversation between us." "What the heck do you want, Bai Fong?" "I'm telling you, you're brazenly provoking the martial arts union like this. Do you really plan to become enemies with the martial arts union?" Elder Jean shouted coldly at her. Chapter 1925. Could you be worryless, Nye? Heh. Yi Wanwan sat down on the sofa and chuckled. "What's happening right now is unrelated to the martial arts union. I was looking for you, not the martial arts union." "Looking for me?" Elder Jean frowned deeply. "Elder Jean, your dagger back then nearly killed me," Yi Wanwan nonchalantly said while staring at Elder Jean. "Back then? Dagger?" Elder Jean was more bewildered by her words. "What in the world are you saying, President Bai? What back then? What dagger? I nearly killed you?" Elder Jean was confused. Upon seeing Elder Jin's reaction, Yi Wanwan secretly cursed. Elder Jin's expression didn't look like it was faked. Perhaps this Elder Jean really didn't know Worryless Nye was the president of the Fearless Alliance back then. If that was it was completely useless undergoing so many trials and abducting Elder Jean here. Fine, since you don't know, I'll ask you a different question. Yi Wanwan looked at Elder Jean again. You should know Worryless Nye, right? Elder Jin's expression instantly changed. Yi Wanwan got her answer. It appeared Elder Jean really didn't know the fact that Worryless Nye was by phone. Many years ago, Worryless Nye was hunted down by your martial arts union and nearly died underneath your dagger. Don't tell me you forgot about this matter, Elder Jean. A frighteningly chilly glint appeared in Yi Wanwan's eyes. Elder Jean was startled and looked at her incredulously. Could it be your Worryless Nye? Earlier, this woman clearly said he nearly killed her with a dagger many years ago, but now she changed the subject of her story to Worryless Nye. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips turned up. You don't need to know who I am. Remember where you are. You just need to answer my question. President Bai, I think there might be some misunderstanding between us. I have no idea what you're saying, Elder Jean said, staring at Yi Wanwan intently. So you won't tell me? Yi Wanwan glanced at him. No worries. You won't tell me now, but you'll be begging me later. Yi Wanwan then turned and left the place. After Yi Wanwan exited, the hall masters entered and closed the door. The next morning, inside the Fearless Alliance, Big Dipper and the group of Fearless Alliance members looked like they were facing a great enemy. About 15 minutes ago, several managers and elders from the Martial Arts Union were dispatched to the Fearless Alliance. The leader wore a silver mask that concealed his face. The vice president of the Martial Arts Union, third elder, and the others were surprised at seeing the masked man. The owner of such a mask was the vice president of the Martial Arts Union. People said his face was burned and ruined from an accident many years ago, and he had been wearing a mask since. First elder once saw the face behind the mask, and it was truly a face that unsettled people. Sir Vice President of the Martial Arts Union and several elders, what a formidable lineup, Yi Wanwan commented in good spirits upon her arrival as she surveyed the visitors. She had rushed there after learning of their arrival. When Yi Wanwan saw this masked man, the image of Worryless Nye severely injured surfaced in her mind. This masked man was also present back then. Chapter 1926. It must be Azura. Yi Wanwan donned a confused expression. What are you saying, Sir Vice President? I'm a bit confused why you brought so many people here to the Fearless Alliance's headquarters, and you're asking me why? Shouldn't it be me asking you that question? Heh, President Bai, clever people don't speak hidden words. Hand over our people and supplies, the Vice President of the Martial Arts Union said with a smile. What are you saying, Vice President? Yi Wanwan asked in astonishment. What people and supplies? Where are your words coming from? President Bai, our Martial Arts Union's transport trucks disappeared last night, and we lost some extremely valuable medicine and a large number of gold bricks. The elder and 2 managers in charge of the transportation also went missing, the Vice President said. What? That happened? Yi Wanwan hastily asked. Hurry and find them then. Why do you have the free time to come to our Fearless Alliance? President Bai, our supplies were most likely robbed, he replied while staring at Yi Wanwan. Seriously? That kind of thing happened? Yi Wanwan was taken aback. Who in the independent state has the guts to touch the supplies of the Martial Arts Union? They must be severely punished. That's right. Damn, which cocky fool could do something like that? I know. Big Dipper interjected. Oh, who is it? The masked man turned to Big Dipper. Is that even a question, Vice President? It must have been Azura. Big Dipper answered seriously. Aside from Azura, who in the independent state has the guts to steal something from the Martial Arts Union? That's right, it must have been Azura. Yi Wanwan shot Big Dipper a look. Can't you freaking shut that aggravating mouth of yours? Heh, I thought of them earlier, but we've eliminated Azura already. Moreover, Azura is open and brazen. They never act sneakily like this. I think that what happened rather fits your Fearless Alliance's style though. The masked man stared at Yi Wanwan. Hand over our people and supplies, President Bai. Vice President, you can eat things carelessly but you can't say things carelessly. You claim that the Fearless Alliance stole your people and supplies, but do you have proof? If you do, show us outright, Yi Wanwan said. Yi Wanwan looked nonchalant and unruffled on the surface but was actually incredibly nervous inside. They didn't leave any evidence behind last night, right? It appears President Bai won't admit to it. The masked man glanced at Yi Wanwan. Fine. We've given you and the Fearless Alliance a chance, President Bai. You better pray I won't find out you're the culprit. After saying that, the masked man turned around and led his people away. Yi Wanwan finally relaxed when she saw the vice president leaving. After all this trouble, they didn't actually have any proof. She got scared thinking they left some fatal evidence behind last night. Big Dipper and the elders were also frightened. If the martial arts union did learn it was the Fearless Alliance who did it, the consequences would be unthinkable. Thankfully, not many people knew about this, so there was no way the secret would get out. Moreover, they didn't leave behind any evidence, so the martial arts union absolutely wouldn't discover any proof no matter how omnipotent they were. After this incident though, Yi Wanwan became more cautious and didn't plan to visit the base Elder Jean was held in the near future, afraid that the martial arts union would track her. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.